We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
It's tailgate season, Mike, and we are up and running with some new gear. Go to pff.shop.com, or is it shop.pff.com? One of those two. We got some new tailgate hats. One if you're a Georgia fan, one if you're a Florida fan. We're also coming out with some other ones as well. Texas, West Virginia. Definitely go check out the shop. And if you're not checking out the shop, go to pff.com and subscribe to any subscription with promo code TAILGATE, TAILGATE, to get 25% off any subscription. That's how you can support the show. Now, if you want to listen to the show, we got a jam-packed one here, top 10 position rankings and the interviews with Kaiir Elam and Chad Muma, the Wyoming linebacker and the Florida corner. Starting with the top 10, how I'm going to go about this, Mike. I'm going to read off the top 10.
Yeah.
And then we're going to highlight one, maybe two players that you like, want to talk more about as we go forward. But let's first start with the quarterbacks here. Number one, a new number one from preseason at least, Malik Willis of Liberty. Number two, Matt Corral of Ole Miss, rising up to number 2 on our list here. Sam Howell at number 3 of North Carolina. Then at 4, Tanner McKee, friend of the show and Stanford quarterback. Kenny Pickett at 5, the Pittsburgh quarterback at 6. Carson Strong of Nevada, 7. All the way down to 7. A catastrophic fall. Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma, the backup at Oklahoma, mind you. Desmond Ridder of Cincinnati at 8. Phil Jurkovich, Boston College at 9. And then Keaton Slovis, the USC quarterback, there at 10. Let's focus in. And I know a lot of people want to talk Rattler. A lot of people want to talk about, Corral and the rise. But give your guys some love. Tanner McKee is probably the highest on your board of any board right now, and he has not played a lot at Stanford. Went on the mission trip. He was on this show, talked a lot about – he didn't play a lot of football. He said he had one practice with a semi-pro team in Brazil and then finally got back to Stanford, and Coach David Shaw gave him the keys, gave it to him quickly, and he has hit the ground in a full sprint.
Yeah, I would be surprised, I will say, if he does declare because of all those things you said.
He hasn't played a lot of football.
Not playing a lot of football, and because he is that talented. Like when you're that good – and you're not, I guess, that Stanford offense is not one that's necessarily conducive to putting up gaudy stats, shall we say. But he's still been very efficient with the football in that offense. Almost 65 completion percentage, 14 touchdowns to only 3 picks, 14 big-time throws to only 7 turnover-worthy plays. Like, he has been playing good football. It's just that Stanford offense line's not been great. He's been pressured a lot. He's been sacked 17 times this year. Like, I still think there are things that he can improve upon and can play his way into that top 5, top 10 pick conversation, but he's already risen his stock massively throughout this season. To me, his accuracy is some of the best in this entire draft class. You look at just the ball placement, he's just throwing to not the windows that a Spencer Rattler sees down the football field, that these spread offenses see. That is decidedly not what Stanford does. So I'm excited to see where his game goes in the future, all the way up to number 4, because I believe in him that much from what I've seen so far. But I think just the shakeup in this quarterback class is indicative of how not good this quarterback class is. I mean, you look at the preseason draft board, which I always say preseason draft boards, those preseason rankings, that is entertainment. It is the final board that matters. That is the board that, shit matters. We're still media. It's still not like actually I'm using that board. Yeah, from the outside just looking in. But that's the board that actually we are taking into account the breadth of what a guy's done in their college careers. The preseason board is kind of still a lot of projection of who they could be a year out from the draft, and seeing the shakeup that we've seen at the quarterback position is very indicative of just the fact that there still doesn't look like one guy that is the guy that you feel good taking at number 1 overall in this class. And even this past week, I did these ranks before that, you see Malik Willis go out and bomb, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
It's going to be, I'll say, a very eventful, fun offseason or pre-draft process because of how much this quarterback class is in flux. There is not an obvious number 1. There's not an obvious number 2. And the problem is there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, a lot of teams that will be drafting highly that will be looking to invest in the next guy, but maybe there isn't one.
Yeah, so last year's sort of pre-draft was all about the quarterback position because which one do we take? There's so many. Who's the right one for us? This year, it's, shit, do we take one at all? And it's going to be Detroit Lions staring a top 3 to 5 pick in the face being like, do we want a guy there or do we need to rebuild this roster more and give more talent to Jared Goff? It's going to be the Houston Texans having that exact same conversation in their draft rooms. It's going to be like, do we take this guy or do we take a Kayvon Thibodeau who we know is going to impact football games, or do we risk looking like, clowns for drafting a quarterback who just isn't ready to play?
And I think where my head's at is when you do make a top 10, top 15, top 20 pick investment in the quarterback position, you're essentially committing at least 1 or 2 years to him, trying to get him in a position. If you don't start him initially, you're going to commit 1, 2, 3 years to putting together a good quarterback. And then it's not every year that you have the Josh Rosen situation or the Jimmy Clausen. But Jimmy Clausen was a second-round pick. You can move on from him. Rosen's an outlier in that the Arizona Cardinals got the number 1 overall pick the following year and made a decision at the quarterback position. This year, I don't know how many teams are going to want to draft one of these guys in the top 10, top 15, knowing that comes with commitment. It has to. It's too big of an investment to not be committed. Am I wrong into thinking that?
Well, I think you don't have to commit. Like, it doesn't have to be. It just has been that way. Like, you can still, we've kept saying that any chance you can upgrade at the quarterback position, like look at what the Dolphins have been doing, kicking the tires of Deshaun Watson. Like, there's any minor upgrade is way more important than pretty much any other position that exists in the football field. So I don't think that, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into that, but it is a guy that's going to be on your roster for the next 3 years, more than likely, unless you do trade away for it.
You have to hope that ownership or the GMs that do go into this quarterback class enter with that expectation, though. It's not like, hey, the guy we're taking in the top 5, top 10, committing 3 years to him, maybe 4 years, getting that 5th-year option to see if he can actually pan out, because at that point, you could be like setting franchises back with some of these quarterbacks here. Shall we get on to running backs?
Let's do it.
Running backs. This is another class where there's been some shakeup at the number 1 or at the top at least. Kenneth Walker, Michigan State running back, also did a fantastic interview with Trevor Sikkema. That piece is on PFF.com. Force miss tackle machine. And PFF every year, our running back 1 is the guys that create yards, whether that's yards after contact or force missed tackles, and also catching the ball out of the backfield. Kenneth Walker, a fantastic specimen out of Michigan State. At number 2, Breece Hall, Iowa State, a guy that a lot of people pegged as number 1 running back in this class. He's at number 2. Zach Charbonnet of UCLA, getting up there to number 3, who had a really fantastic start to the season and continues to have success for UCLA. Then 4, Isaiah Spiller of Texas A&M. 5, Zonovan, a.k.a. Bam Knight of NC State. Alabama's Brian Robinson at 6, Jerrion Ealy of Ole Miss at 7, Tyler Algier, BYU back at 8, Kyron Williams, Notre Dame back at 9, and then Pierre Strong of South Dakota State there at 10. Let's focus on RB1 here. Kenneth Walker was not the preseason RB1. More people were talking about Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller of Texas A&M than they were, obviously, Kenneth Walker. But he has risen to the number 1 status. Why?
Well, not a lot of people watching Wake Forest football last year, so not going to be on a lot of radars. But he's been productive ever since his freshman year at Wake. He got 98 carries as a freshman and broke 36 tackles, 98 carries. That's a fantastic rate for any back in college football. And obviously now built upon that, 62 broken tackles on 152 carries so far for Michigan State, and has that kind of all-around combination that I think wins in the NFL. That makes you believe that a guy who's breaking all these tackles will continue to break them in the NFL, and that he's 5'10", 210, which is ideal running back size, like versatile running back size. And you see him run through guys, you see him run past guys, and you see him shake guys in the hole. That's like he has a lot of ways to win. And so I think you already see him being a bell cow in this Michigan State offense, obviously, with those 152 carries. I mean, 20-plus carries in 6 of his games so far this year. 5 of his games so far this year. That's a guy it's easy to believe in what he can do at the next level. And again, it's also indicative of the fact that not a great running back class, that a guy who's kind of outside the radar heading into the season can jump all the way up to RB1.
I was going to say, it doesn't feel like there's a obvious, even from traditional drafters, a first-round running back in this class. What's the highest you're taking Kenneth Walker right now? Is that back of round 2, top of round 3 type of player?
Yeah, I think that's about what we're looking at here. Is even by NFL standards, like NFL is obviously higher on running backs than us, but I think no one's going to sniff the first round. in this running back class. I think you might not see a top 50 pick at the running back position in this class.
Wow. Wide receiver, number 1, Garrett Wilson of Ohio State. He's been the preseason wide receiver 1 and maintains that status. He's been phenomenal this year. This past week, he was just consistently creating separation, consistently making big catch after big catch. Garrett Wilson, my favorite receiver in this class. But number 2, I love Chris Olave, the 2 Ohio State guys. Whoa.
Excuse me?
Chris Olave of Ohio State coming in at number 2. Number 3, Drake London, the big monster slot, now turned outside receiver for USC at number 3. Then at 4, Treylon Burks, another big receiver, 6'2", 6'3", 225, an impressive specimen there for Arkansas. At 5, Jamison Williams of Alabama, who I'll say this. Jamison Williams, Kaiir Elam, I asked him who his best receiver he's faced. He said, that guy, Jamison Williams. Yeah. Big way. Jahan Dotson, Mel Kiper's wide receiver 1, comes in at wide receiver 6 for PFF. The other Alabama receiver, John Mechie, there at 7. Jalen Tolbert, the speedster out of South Alabama, and friend of the show at 8. Dante Demas Jr., another friend of the show, the Maryland receiver who also suffered that big-time injury a few weeks ago. And then Romeo Doubs, Nevada receiver, there at 10. Let's focus on Jamison Williams, former 4-star for Ohio State, transfers to Alabama, and is having a ton of success. And it wasn't even close for Kaiir Elam. You'll listen to that interview on the day. He said, that's the best receiver they have. Jamison Williams is the dude. He's probably, the best receiver I've faced this year, maybe even in his career.
Yeah, and so another massive riser with his play this season. Obviously, 2 years at Ohio State, transfers over the course of the offseason. He's 6'2", 190, a little bit skinny, but this guy can fly. Like, if he doesn't run in the 4.3s, I will be surprised. The guy can cook down the football field, and that, as we've seen in the NFL, can be utilized more and more in modern offenses. You don't worry as much about can a guy get off the line of scrimmage. If they are fast, you can scheme open releases for them. You can scheme them into situations where that speed can kill. And he can also run fast, but then come to a stop fast, which is something that a lot of speed wide receivers struggle with, and why a lot of, just because you run a 4.3 doesn't mean you can impact football games. And we've seen that already because he's taken over the wide receiver 1 role that everyone thought John Mechie was going to get in that offense. 587 yards already on 29 catches, over 20 yards per reception. That's just indicative of the big plays he can bring to the table.
Before we get to the tight end class, NFL fans hungry for a big win this week, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game. And if they do, you win $200 in free bets, winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Tight ends. Trey McBride, Colorado State tight end, who has been otherworldly dominant for them. He's racked up such a high percentage of their passing yards. He's been like pretty much their offense. 6'4", 260. At number 2, Isaiah Likely, friend of the show, probably one of my favorite interviews this year too. Really good on the mic, a guy that I told I'd love to get back on the show in the pre-draft process. He is a fantastic specimen, a really receiving threat for Coastal Carolina. At number 3, Jalen Weidemeyer of Texas A&M. 4, Jaleel Billingsley. If he can get out of the doghouse of Nick Saban of Alabama, maybe he can enter the draft. Then at 5, Jeremy Rucker, Ohio State. 6, Greg Dulcich of UCLA. 7, Cole Turner, Nevada. 8, Cade Otton, Washington. 9, Brett Kuth, Utah. 10, Charlie Kolar, Iowa State. You want to focus on Trey McBride?
Yes, because I think I really like the way that Eric Galko put it when he was on the show talking about the tight ends. The director of the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
Obviously.
No, not the Senior Bowl. East West Shrine.
Oh, gosh. I did
careful.
not just do that.
That is a hotly contested
Eric's
area.
going to kill me. That was bad. I'm sorry, Eric, but so he put it well where it's like, there's not a guy in this tight end class that's like first round, surefire stud, but there are probably a handful that you can have starting as your tight end in the NFL. But I think McBride's the top of that because while he's not this dynamic, playmaker with the ball in his hands, you will never expect him to be. I mean, Kyle Pitts is obviously like the pinnacle of that as a prospect, but you're not even expecting him to be someone like a a Noah Fant. Like, he's not a speedster who's going to win necessarily down the football field, but he reminds me of maybe like a Mark Andrews, where he's got such natural receiving ability, so like easy as a route runner that he can get open even if he's going to run maybe like a 4.7 at the combine. He's a guy that you can trust at the intermediate level of the field, maybe not the deep level of the football field, but can win at the intermediate level enough that this guy can be a guy that maybe you do take in the second round, maybe late second round, maybe that is actually going to be a value add and can be at 6'4", 260, an actual inline blocker for you as well. So I do think Trey McBride at tight end 1. I did not expect that necessarily coming into this season, but I've been very impressed with him when everyone knows the ball is heading his way, like, and how much he can still be productive in that offense.
Let's move to offensive tackle. It's a loaded group at the top with a lot of names that we've talked about a ton already on the show. Evan Neal, the number 1 player on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list, one of the freakiest people probably on the planet, 6'7", 350, left tackle there for Alabama. And then Kenyon Green, Texas A&M, who's played up and down the line for them this season. He's been mightily impressive. At number 3, Charles Cross, Mississippi State, that working project that's finally putting it together this season. At 4, Nicholas Petit-Frere of Ohio State. I don't know how to do that one.
That was brutal, dude.
I don't ever want to do that again.
I don't know what kind of accent you put on that.
Is there any way I can take that back? Nicholas Petit-Frere, Ohio State. I'm never doing the French accent again.
Don't try for it.
That wasn't an accent. I don't know what that was. Kellen Dyche
like
of Arizona State at 5. Bernard Raymond of Central Michigan at 6. At 7, Jackson Kirkland, Washington, who had his draft stock fall pretty mightily after the Aiden Hutchinson game against Michigan. Then Trevor Penning, Northern Iowa. 9, you have Zion Nelson, Miami, Florida. And then at 10, the big man, the monster, the Melbourne monster, Daniel Falele, Minnesota. I don't know if he's from Melbourne, but he is from Australia, obviously. You wanted to dive into your fire-up chips.
Yes.
Bernard Raymond, who's only allowed 10 pressures on the season, has played a ton of snaps for Central Michigan over the past 4 years, is playing left tackle now, an 82.0 PFF pass blocking grade. Like I said, 10 pressures allowed on the season and only 3 penalties for your guy Raymond.
Yeah, he was a foreign exchange student from Austria in high school here in Michigan. Goes to Central Michigan, starts at tight end his first 2 years, transitions to offensive tackle last year in 2020, and now this year has a 87.0 overall graded offensive tackle for Central Michigan. The guy can move for a 6'7", 305 pounds. You know, anytime you see a guy who's like tight end transition,
you get excited.
Offensive tackle, you can start to get excited because it's like you can't play tight end if you don't have some semblance of movement skills. No one's even going to start you there. But then you get to 6'7", 305, and now he still probably could stand to put on some more muscle, but like, he's in the process, and for as big as he's gotten already, the guy can move. It's got some legit lateral agility. Very excited to see where his game goes, and he's gotten better. Like, even as this year has gone on, only 1 pressure allowed over his last 2 games. So Ryman is a interesting and rising prospect. I'd recommend anyone who's wants to learn more to read a great article by Dane Brugler of The Athletic. They did a profile on him. So.
Man, that is an impressive background.
It's like a number of prospects in this class like that. Obviously, Falele as well is kind of like this guy from newish to football, still kind of learning. But we keep talking about at the offensive tackle position, 90% is can you be 6'6", 305, 300 plus and move? Yeah. So
I mean, it goes back to even the success that Jordan Mailata has had. A guy that was another, he was also from Australia and like a work in progress, but he was big as hell and can move, and you can nurture that athleticism. Mm-hmm. You see, some of the work that Eric Eager has done, how much athleticism, that size to athleticism ratio factors into future performance at the offensive tackle position. On to interior offensive line. PFF's IOL1 for a while now. Tyler Linderbaum of Iowa, also a friend of the show. Number 2, Ikem Ekwonu, another friend of the show. You're projecting him as an interior offensive lineman right now, but there are chances that he could still kick out to tackle, right? I mean, you're not done there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to trying him at tackle. I just think he is going to be a damn good guard.
Fair.
In the NFL.
Number 3, these first 3 guys have all been interviewed on this show. Is this collusion? What is this?
Well, I mean, we're like PFF's like O-line central. You want O-line news, you come to PFF.
It's true. Number 3, Darian Kennard, Kentucky. Ironman for Kentucky. Plays right tackle for them. At 4, Sean Ryan of UCLA. 5, Thayer Mumford, Ohio State. 6, Andrew Voorhees of USC. 7, Donovan West, Arizona State. 8, Jarrett Patterson of Notre Dame. 9, your guy, the monster, Jason Poe of Mercer. And at 10, Dylan Parham of Memphis. Let's talk more about Poe.
Yes.
I know we talked a little bit about him on the Monday show. I think he was in the Fun to Watch or Take Your Pants. I don't know where he was at, but he was on that show. Small, squatty, 6 foot, 300-pound guard for Mercer who put on an absolute show against Bama and all season long has been super impressive as one of the, you called him the best pulling guard in the country.
Yeah. So this interior offensive line class at the top, elite at the top. Linderbaum, Ekwonu. Linderbaum, the best center prospect. Ekwonu, probably the second best guard prospect we've seen behind Quentin Nelson. Like those guys are hashtag dudes.
Legit.
Not a lot of depth though. Depth is lacking. You want tackle converts in this class if you want depth, and that's why Jason Poe makes this list because the way he can move for a guy that size at just a shade over 6 foot, 300 pounds is special, and it reminds me a lot of Shaq Mason coming out of Georgia Tech, where they ran triple option there when Shaq Mason was at Georgia Tech, but when he was locating guys at the second level, when he was pulling out in front of plays to the edge, it was like there's not a lot of guys that move like that at that size that, might pass protection. You're going to maybe have to, or not maybe have to, you're probably going to have to teach this guy what the hell's up. Like, he hasn't gone against or had to take pass sets that are NFL caliber. That's a work in progress. And he's probably at his size, probably going to be a center only with that size. But there aren't that many guys that are the size of an NFL offensive lineman that move that way, and that's a big part of playing line in the NFL. So I'd rather take the chance if we're talking about, at this point, IOL 9 on this list is a day 3 guy. Talking about a day 3 guy, do I want to take a chance on a guy who's a limited athlete, who's maybe played at a big school and is just okay? Or do I want a guy who is a freak of nature, who may run the 4.7s that can develop into something real? Let me take the chance on that guy.
I might have to get him on the pod. We might have to get this guy on the pod. I know he was in your mentions, talking about, showing you other plays and stuff.
Well, and so he actually ended up making a TikTok about my tweet, and then it got like 1 million views.
No way.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shit, nice dude.
Right, that's so. Yeah. TikTok, you need to get on TikTok, Mike.
No.
Yes, you do. You actually,
someone sent it to me. Actually, it was.
You do pretty well. It
was Mitch. Mitch sent it to me. Thanks, Mitch.
All right, Kalaya. We're going on to defense. But before we get to defense here, I want to let you all know the proud sponsor of the tailgate, whether it's football success or financial savvy, the right questions help set the stage for winning strategies. Western and Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to share insights that can help put you ahead on both your fantasy and financial scoreboards. Want to hear about Chris's old playing days or behind the scenes with Al on Sunday Night Football? How about a need to know for your financial future? Now you can ask about either or both. And every football or financial question you ask earns you a chance to win a catered party for February's big game. Check out Chris Collinsworth podcast and the Western Southern Instagram for answers to the big questions every week. Submit your questions at westernsouthern.com/askchris. One more time, that is westernsouthern.com/askchris. Chris, if you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. Remember, with Western Southern, you can rest assured on game day. We are on to defense, specifically interior defensive line. Number 1, the big man, the monster, Jordan Davis of Georgia. Number 2, UConn showing up big, Travis Jones, big monster, 6'5", 333-pounder for UConn. Number 3, Fedarian Mathis of Alabama. Number 4, Devontae Wyatt, another Georgia player on this list. Number 5, Perion Winfrey of Oklahoma. 6, your guy, Logan Hall of Houston. 7, Zachary Carter of Florida. 8, Tyler Davis of Clemson. 9, Haskell Garrett, the older veteran defensive tackle for Ohio State. And then at 10, where you wanted to focus, the Pittsburgh defensive lineman, Kalijah Cansey. So far this year, 14 total pressures on the year. Also has an 89.6 PFF pass rushing grade. He's played over 200 snaps this season.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. So first off, this DT class is pretty weak. It is not a banner year. Jordan Davis is going to get obviously all the hype, but even he is kind of a limited one-trick-ish nose tackle. But Cansey is an interesting guy to me because he is 6 foot tall and listed at 6 foot tall, which means he might be like 5'11", and he's 275. I think he is an intriguing sort of transition to, can this guy play edge? Because if you hear, or Duke Manyweather, who is the offensive line guru who hosts O-line masterminds and the summit for all the offensive, some of the top offensive linemen in the NFL to discuss how, blocking techniques and whatnot, has said that the one sort of body type on the edge that there's really no answer for, that guys have struggled with to know how to consistently block, is the 5'11", 6 foot, the James Harrison, the Elvis Dumervil type of edge rusher, the Carl Lawson, the guy who's playing with ridiculous leverage, maybe doesn't have long arms, but is going to get underneath you and has no real strike zone to hit. That could be Kalijah Cansey, because he is an explosive guy at that weight, 275 pounds, could even trim weight to obviously play on the edge, and has an 89.6 pass rushing grade so far this year. Now, obviously, at 6 foot 275, you are not playing defensive tackle in the NFL. You can't. You are not going to hold up to double teams. So when a 330-pound guy leans on you, you just need some mass behind you. So at that size, as a redshirt sophomore, I would be intrigued to see what this guy can do, kind of like what the Eagles are doing with, why is his name eluding me, the Louisiana Tech defensive tackle. Milton Williams. They're moving him to the edge more because of that size, because he is an undersized sort of defensive tackle, to try to get him in those situations. So intriguing to see how he develops as a prospect and where sort of his weight ends up, because right now he's in that no man's land of you're not playing the position he's playing in the NFL.
Do you think, and I know we focus a lot on Cansey there, but for Davis, because he is that limited player, and I know you've mentioned before about how few snaps he plays each game, do you think he gets talked in? Do you think he is a first-round player? Do you think he is ultimately drafted in the first round?
Oof, that's tough. I do think he's ultimately drafted in the first round, because everyone loves DT, the monster DTs. I mean, Derek Brown goes top 10 because everyone wants that tone setter in the middle. Even if we would say, you can get third rounders that set the tone in terms of the run game. You can get Derek Nottie in the third and be fine in the run game, even though he's kind of actually been asked this year. But like there are run first DTs that you don't need to spend top 10, top 30 picks on.
Let's move to edge defender. Number one has been the preseason number one for a while. 6'5", 258-pound Kayvon Thibodeau of Oregon had himself a game against USC. He continues to look impressive when given the opportunity. I think how many pressures did he have in the second half of that game? 10 pressures in that game. Number two, Aiden Hutchinson of Michigan, also a top 5 player on PFF's draft board, friend of the show. DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M edge defender at number 3. Number 4, Kingsley Enagbare, who will be on the Thursday show this week. I'm excited for that interview. He is apparently really good on the mic. I heard good things from his coach, Shane Beamer. Number 5, Adam Anderson, Georgia. 6, George Karlaftis of Purdue. 7, Drake Jackson, USC. 8, what's insane to me is that Nick Bonito is 8. Not because it's like, why don't you have him higher? It's how good this edge class is. Like, Nick Bonito is damn good, and he's already here at 8. And then you have at 9, Arnold Ebiketie of Penn State, older prospect for Penn State. And then at 10, Jermaine Johnson, Florida State. This is a very deep edge class. A lot of talent on this list. I know we can only focus on one guy. That's the structure of the show. So why don't you give me some more on Kingsley Enagbare?
Yeah, I mean, so deep that no Myjai Sanders, no Zach Harrison, the Cincinnati edge rusher and the Ohio State edge rusher.
Who are good.
Who are like elite athletes who are like 6'5", 260, and probably going to run the 4.5s at their pro day / combine. So that's how talented this class is. And the guy who I can't believe I haven't seen more love for is Enagbare. He is right now 93.6 pass rushing grade. That would be the second highest we've ever seen behind Chase Young from a couple years ago. That's higher than Nick Bosa ever did. That's higher than
Joey
Bosa ever did. That's in a full-time role. This isn't a guy who, like Nick Bonito, was very high last year as just a one trick, comes in on pass rushing downs. That's all he gets to do. No, Enagbare is 322 snaps already this season, more than Aiden Hutchinson.
He's their guy,
and he's been extremely productive. And now he's not, an elite athlete. He's not up there with the guys in front of him on this list in the edge class. But he's a pretty damn good athlete in his own right. He's 6'4", 265. He's got size. He's got length. I'm just very surprised that I really haven't seen a ton of first-round hype for this guy. But at some point, I'm putting him in the first round locks list. It's not going to be this week, but at some point I'm going to, because that's how strongly I believe in him as a prospect. I think people will come around to his game.
Looking forward to that interview. I'm just looking forward to, I think there's going to be, maybe after Kayvon Thibodeau, a lot of discussion on who the 2, 3, 4, 5 are, because there is so much talent. Like you said, Myjai Sanders, Zach Harrison, not even making the list. Nick Bonito all the way down to 8. Like, this is such a good group. I think the combine will tell a lot of that. Obviously, athleticism plays a huge part at edge, but I'm excited to kind of follow that along. We just got after talking, about a bad defensive tackle class. It's made up for in the edge class, and obviously one of the highest paid positions in the NFL. Getting that kind of group into the NFL would be sweet. Linebacker Devin Lloyd, Utah, takes number 1. Then you have Nakobe Dean, the Georgia linebacker, at number 2. Number 3, Christian Harris of Alabama. Number 4, Brandon Smith, Penn State. 5, friend of the show, Justin Jacobs of Iowa. I think that's a guy that could potentially come back to school and continue to develop there. I think his body, his frame specifically, could continue to get bigger, but he is already playing really well for Iowa. Number 6.
Can you make your frame bigger?
Okay, I don't know if he can make his frame bigger. He's got to add some meat. No, he doesn't have to, but he might. I'll make your frame bigger, buddy. Why don't you freaking figure it out? All right, number 6, Peyton Wilson, NC State. 7, Brian Asamoah, Oklahoma. 8, guy on today's show, Chad Muma, Wyoming. 9, Owen Papo, Auburn. 10, Leo Chenal of Wisconsin. You wanted to focus in on Nakobe Dean. I think a guy that you thought could still compete for linebacker 1 in this class. A guy that is absolutely electric on film, going sideline to sideline, exactly where this linebacker position is going.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to test the best of any of these linebackers.
Really?
Absolutely. No, okay, so let me finish. I'm not sure he's going to test the best, but he plays the fastest. No one bursts from a standstill faster. No one is out in space closing 2 ball carriers faster than Nakobe Dean. He has a 90.6 pass rushing grade so far this season. He has 5 sacks on 50 pass rushes and 13 pressures on 50 pass rushes. He is explosive as hell. Beats blockers at only 6 foot, 225. Like, he is stacking offensive linemen. Doesn't obviously fit the quote unquote ideal profile at that size for the linebacker position that you would like. You want linebackers that look more like Zaven Collins that run 4.4s than Nakobe Dean's. But I think Nakobe Dean's not a lot of holes in his game. The holes in his game are that he just doesn't look the part. That's about it, because this guy is uber productive. A 90.2 overall grade so far this season. Only allowed 10 of 16 targets in coverage for 38 yards. Shuts down pretty much anything in the underneath passing game. The only reason I have Devin Lloyd as linebacker 1 right now is because he has a little bit more of an all-around game, has the more prototypical size, but I don't think you can go wrong with either of these 2 guys. I think both of them could end up in the first-round conversation, along with Christian Harris, but I think you could see a number of first-round linebackers in this year's class.
Hell yeah, love to see that. Cornerback group is going to be interesting. We talked about it in the preseason, how loaded this group is. You have Derek Stingley, the LSU cornerback, at number 1. He's obviously going to miss the rest of the season, I think, with an injury. That'll be interesting to factor into his draft stock. Then you have number 2, Kaiir Elam of Florida. 3, Trent McDuffie, the Washington cornerback. 4, Andrew Booth Jr., Clemson. And all the way down at 5, which feels weird to say because he has been so successful this year, one of the highest graded cornerbacks in the country, Ahmad Gardner, a.k.a. Sauce Gardner, Cincinnati, at 5. Roger McCreary of Auburn at 6. Martin Emerson of Mississippi State at 7. 8, you have Noah Daniels of TCU. 9, Jermaine Waller, Virginia Tech. And then 10, the other Washington corner, Kyler Gordon.
Yeah, it's a deep cornerback class. Like you saying, Ahmad Gardner at 5, who very well could be a first-rounder. That's high. That's just how good this cornerback class is.
And even McCreary has been so improved at Auburn, and Noah Daniels still, like, a lot of him is a projection.
I could see 6 of those guys going in the first round for sure. Like, it is that good of a cornerback class. The one guy who I think we're probably going to be higher on here at PFF is Trent McDuffie, because at 5'11", 195, I'm not sure he is going to fit a lot of size profiles, but over a 40-inch vertical at Washington's sort of spring workouts last spring, only on 49 yards all season long on 6 of 16 targets, has just been lights out. And people don't talk about it because, Washington played their way out of any sort of contention early on this season, but no one's throwing at him. Like, no one's going at this guy because he is very physical, at that size. One of the best tacklers at the cornerback position I've seen in college football. Only 4 missed tackles on 79 attempts his entire career. He is maybe not a fit for every scheme in the NFL, but I think the new wave of sort of the Fangio scheme that's proliferating, that's what you want in that defense. Guys that can tackle, guys that are heady cornerbacks. That is Trent McDuffie. And so I think he's going to go to a team like that and be a starter day one sort of guy.
Jimmy Lake at Washington, the coach there, continuing to recruit and churn out heady, athletic cornerback. I mean, Kyler Gordon, another one of those guys too you have there at 10. I'm excited to see, Ahmad Gardner, if potentially the Cincinnati, makes the college football playoff. You could see him against more competition. I'm excited to see his kind of stock and talk to him. Actually, I talk to him tomorrow, which will be great. Safety, Kyle Hamilton of Notre Dame is number 1. I don't think that's going anywhere. I mean, you're wearing the Notre Dame jersey. I don't think we can really any chance Kyle Hamilton gets moved out of that spot?
Hell no.
Kyle Hamilton at 1. Number 2, Jordan Battle, the Alabama safety. Number 3, Jaquan Brisker, Penn State. 4, Daxton Hill, Michigan. 5, Jalen Catalon, Arkansas, the hard-hitting Jalen Catalon. 6, Brandon Joseph of Northwestern, who I'm still really confident in being a really productive player in the NFL down there at 6. 7, Nick Cross, Maryland. 8, Lewis Sine, Georgia. 9, Damani Richardson of Texas A&M. And then at 10, Verone McKinley of Oregon. Let's talk Nick Cross, the Maryland receiver. I think we spent some time on Joseph. He's been on the show, Jalen Catalon, etc. But hear me out. Talk to me more about Nick Cross, Maryland.
Yeah, so Nick Cross is a 6'1", 215-pound safety.
50 pounds. Oh, man.
Massive.
That would be insane.
215-pound safety who also ran on the Maryland track team. He's a 60-meter guy on the Maryland track team. At 215 pounds, this guy can fly at that weight, has some massive hits on his tape, is a hashtag fun to watch safety because of that. Has been starting ever since his true freshman year at Maryland, earned coverage grades of 79.8, 79.8, and 77.8. He has been productive, and at that size is a unique blend of physicality and speed. Only allowed 8 of 14 targets for 64 yards this year with 2 picks and 3 pass breakups. I'm excited to see if he does actually declare, because he's only a true junior. It doesn't necessarily have to come out, obviously. But this guy's traits, I just want to see what he runs the 40 at that size, because he could put up a 4.3 time that you don't necessarily see when you are, like I said, 215 pounds. That's almost there are linebackers. That's Jeremiah Usu-Koromoa size coming out. And this guy is a real deal athlete.
Pretty damn good edge class, pretty damn good corner class, and also a talented safety class.
Yeah.
And safety we have not seen as deep as this year's class in a while. Before we get to, we also wanted to add our biggest risers, biggest fallers from this past week in college football. Last but not least, the best sponsor of the show, or I guess one of my favorites. It's football season, baby, and you know what that means. It means we're going for 2 here with sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. Blitzing through hairs has never been easier, and it's time for you to join 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code PFF at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. It's 3 and out the window with all of their trimmers. Now go tame that Wildcat offense. I'm a huge fan of the trimmer, obviously. You have not talked a lot about the trimmer. Can you give me some of your takes? What's your take?
It works.
That's good.
It does.
Yeah, fair enough. That's all you need. That's all you need. It works. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here to take your defense to the next level. This 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch can engage a travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn a 4,000 LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. I don't shave without the spotlight on. I need the spotlight because I need the precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Rain, snow, sleet are no match for the waterproof power of the 4.0. There's no 15-yard penalty for this clipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code PFF. Stiff arm your pubes out the playoffs this year with Manscaped. Risers, fallers, starting with Cole Turner, Nevada tight end, 12 catches, 175 yards. You talked about Eric Galko, who is not the director of the Senior Bowl. East-West Shrine, Mike, how there's a lot of tight ends. This is a deep group. There's a lot of guys in this one. Cole Turner, another one.
Yeah. So the Nevada tight end, I love his catch radius. He's 6'6", 245. The guy makes plays over in the middle of the field easily outside of his frame. Just a safety blanket there for Carson Strong that basically even when he's guarded, he's not guarded. That's one of those type of tight end athletes, and probably borderline day 2 guy, but he's right there in that mix. What was he, tight end 6? He's right there in that mix of guys where there's a bunch in that 3rd to 4th round range.
18 targets against Hawaii, 12 receptions, 175 yards. Didn't find pay dirt, though. But so far on the year, 53 targets, 34 receptions, 403, and 4 touchdowns for Nevada's Cole Turner. You also had Trey McBride here, who we talked about. Obviously, as tight end 1, had another big week, 7 for 135.
Yeah, 7 for 135. He now has 597 yards in 6 games.
Mackey Award winner, no brainer.
Yeah, I would have to think. I think we're getting close to those awards seasons being legit combos, and tight end looks wrapped up.
Purdue wide receiver David Bell, we haven't actually talked about a ton on this show. 6'2", 205, and 88.8 or 88.0 PFF grade so far this year. This past week, 12 targets, 11 receptions, 240 yards, and a tug in an upset over number 2 Iowa. It was an impressive performance for Bell, a guy that has had a lot of production at Purdue, man. I mean, even in 2019, 128 targets, 86 receptions for over 1,000 yards back early in his career here at Purdue, also having another good season this year.
Yeah, had a scare earlier in the season against Notre Dame, bounced off the turf violently, which was actually same way I got a concussion when I was
violent bounce off the turf?
Violent bounce off the turf, playing fall ball in high school. And it was like probably 40 degrees.
Like baseball?
Yeah, fall baseball. So 40 degrees, dove for a ball, caught it, but then my head slammed, and that was like that. The ground was rock hard. Next thing I remember was the whole team standing over me. So that was fun.
Whoa.
That was basically what happened to David Bell against Notre Dame. But back now 11 catch for 240. I think that you hearing that sounds a little bit more impressive than when you go back and actually watch, and it's just like a drag route that goes for like 60 yards, and him sitting in some hitches on the outside that they're just allowing at Iowa. But it still was he still did make some impressive plays down the football field, the deep post route, 4 broken tackles after the catch. He has got some of the best ball skills in college football for sure. Now, I still have questions about pure separation ability, but at that size, again, that's the sort of winning combination is dudes who are, over 6 foot, big wingspans, over 200 pounds, can deal with the physicality of NFL corners. I think you've seen that from David Bell.
Tyler Linderbaum, PFF Center 1, 88.7 grade this past week. He continues to kind of cement his status as the top interior offensive lineman in this class.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of old hat for him. Now has 3 straight games of 87.0 or higher, which he's just dominant. Snap after snap after snap, any which way, moving guys off the line, locating space. Just want to throw him a bone because Iowa loses. Not Linderbaum's fault. Dude was balling out of control.
Super nice guy, too. Loved having him on the show. He's actually, in the bye, went duck hunting for the first time. He seemed like more of a hunter type when he was on, but it was the first time he's been duck hunting. Leo Chenal, linebacker for Wisconsin. We also mentioned him on the top 10 linebackers list. He was phenomenal this past week. A former 3-star with only 2 offers, South Dakota State and Wisconsin. Got to Wisconsin at 215 pounds. Has added weight since then. Has now improved his PFF grade every single year of his career there at Wisconsin, up to a 91.7 grade on the year this year.
Yeah, he was a Bruce Feldman's Freaks List member this preseason, I believe. He's a massive off-ball linebacker. I mean, this guy is a horse, 6'2", 261, reminiscent of like a Leighton Vander Esch at that size, where it's just he is a lot for college offensive linemen to deal with. 94.3 run defense grade is the highest in college football, right up there with one of the highest we've seen ever. Now, he's only played 4 games, so yeah, take that. Still a small sample size, but against Army was shutting down that triple option attack. They would put him at like a tilt nose tackle, so they would have a nose tackle, and then they'd line him up in the A-gap, and he had 2 plays where he just tackled the quarterback as soon as the ball was snapped because very good scheme there by Jim Leonard. But he's going to be an interesting sort of projection because in run defense, this guy can move. I have no issues with him. I think he can be a plus run defender at the NFL level. Now, can he cover? I don't know. I don't think so. Not at
260.
Not the level you would want. So I'm curious to see what kind of role would be his best role, because he could end up being an edge at that size. And he has a 91.3 pass rushing grade this year, 90.5 last year. 2
pressures in every game.
Yeah, he can do that as well. So buying into the athleticism in some way, shape, and form, but he's just kind of limited laterally.
Next on your list, Boye Mafe, the edge defender for Minnesota, a guy that before the season, PJ Fleck on this show raved about as probably going to be one of the biggest risers in college football, one of the most dominant edge defenders. And over the past 4 weeks, 3 pressures in every single game, 8 pressures this past week against Nebraska, an 87.3 pass rushing grade on the year. Also one of my favorite preseason watches. This guy is stellar to watch, turn the corner. He's also got good burst off the edge as well.
Yeah, so he was also Freaks List member. And I think you've kind of seen, this is his 5th year at Minnesota, you've kind of seen in recent weeks the light switch sort of come on. It all come together. And now he's still not incredible with his hands, but he reminds me of Josh Sweat coming out of Florida State, where he not only is explosive, ideal size at 6'4", 265, but he can bend. This guy gets to the edge of offensive tackles and then gets back to the quarterback, which is a big part of still being able to win at the NFL level, is being able to get under those 6'7" monsters playing offensive tackle and being able to still get to the top of the pocket instead of getting washed past. So he is, I think this guy's pretty comfortably a day 2 sort of pick at this point. Could work his way even higher than that if he really turns it on, like he did this past week with 8 pressures.
Next on the list, cornerback Jalen Petre of Baylor, 6', 197, actually in his 5th season playing there at Baylor, up to a 79.2 PFF grade on the year, has been very good. And then this past week, the highest single game grade of this season for him.
Yeah, 9 defensive stops against BYU. He flies to the ball around the line of scrimmage. So he's a slot cornerback there in that defense, probably a safety at the NFL level with, he has a 92.5 run defense grade. That's the highest of any cornerback in the country. This guy attacks ball carriers with a recklessness that you just don't see from corners. Corners do not want to get that involved for the most part. This guy does. I think he's going to be an interesting projection in his role to the NFL and what you want him to do, but really playing his way up boards with how many plays he's making on ball carriers this season. Like I said, 9 defensive stops this past week.
Jordan Battle, PFF's safety 2, former 4-star playing there for Alabama. Really good size for Battle, 6'1", 210. And then this past week, highest single game grade of his season so far this year, a 92.8 PFF grade and up to an 88.6 PFF grade on the year. He has been stellar and honestly improving, 2 picks in this one and a pass breakup.
Yeah, he's another guy I'm surprised I have not seen more
people
love for. He is a 3-year starter for Alabama. Now, he didn't start week 1 freshman year, but made starts as a freshman at Alabama, which in and of itself is rare, and is balling yet again this year. 2 picks, pass breakup in this game, has only allowed 4 of 10 targets for 32 yards on the season. And he's 6'1", 210. He is a big safety. You see him close in space, and he doesn't look that – you would expect him to be 5'10", 190. That guy can move around the football field for that size, and that's – we talk about a lot, size – projecting to the NFL, that everyone gets bigger at every position basically. Jordan Battle already ideal size, already has that, and then has the coverage ability as well.
On to fallers, or do we have one more riser?
That's it.
We're on to fallers. Biggest fallers, and you hinted at this at the top of the show, but Malik Willis. This is some burn the tape situation. The lowest single game grade of this season, one of the lowest of his career. A 34.2 PFF passing grade, just 1 big time throw, 4 turnover-worthy plays. And this is coming off a game against Middle Tennessee where he had 3 turnover-worthy plays as well. Just how bad is this for Malik Willis, and how concerned are you?
Oh, it's bad. Some of those decisions were atrocious. And then for it to come, so we had one where it was he should have thrown the ball away and just throws a pick in the red zone. That in and of itself, you don't want to see guys throwing red zone picks, just throwing the ball for grabs in the red zone. That's a big no-no. And then throwing a pick in the 2-minute drill to try to come back at the end of the game, another massive no-no. You cannot have those in those situations. And so it's not just that they're bad decisions, it's bad decisions in times where you really can't make them. And now, rushing ability, he ran for almost 200 yards in this game, but he only goes 16 and 28 for 135 through the air. That's still the more important part. That's still the part that has to be there. And for him to do that against Louisiana Monroe, of all schools, worrisome.
Definitely worrisome. I mean, with that level of competition, you're kind of expecting, especially if he's going to be the QB1 in the 2022 NFL Draft, you need to be dominating at that level of competition. And he's still been really good on the year, a 92.0 grade on the year, but still some worrisome tape from Malik Willis, even this last week. All right, next faller, Mike Jones Jr. Why is he not playing?
Well, he's a disaster in the run game is why he's not playing. And it's why he wanted to transfer in the first place. Clemson had him as their slot safety, kind of whatever in that defense, in Brett Venables' defense, the apex dude, which he said he wanted to play between the tackles, but they have, Skalski and the other guy whose name's eluding me in that Clemson defense that he wasn't going to get to play, traditional linebacker for them. So he transfers to LSU to try to do that. But the problem was, he's still a mess in the run game. He cannot take on blocks effectively, and so he does not see the field. There at LSU, only one snap this past week against Florida. He's not played more than 30 snaps in a game for them this season. The coverage ability is still there. He can still move for 6'2", 234. But, man, he's not coming out this year. I was
about to say, is this like a return to school
situation? He's coming back to school. You cannot come out when you've played 99 snaps in the season.
The other faller you have here is one of the better backs to watch in the country. I won't say it, but he is one of the better backs to watch in the country because he just runs with reckless abandon. But Tyler Algier, the BYU running back, 33 yards this past week was not what you want to see. I mean, you need to break tackles. You need to gain yards after contact. And when you don't, you're never going to be, obviously, a riser on our list and also could be a faller like he is this week.
Yeah, so 15 attempts for 33 yards against Baylor, 1 broken tackle. And now it wasn't great run blocking. Obviously, that's why he goes for that little. But it's still Baylor's defense. You still should be able to be making guys miss in the hole. And he probably had, I think I counted on tape, 5 times with one-on-ones with a linebacker. And now he's not the type of guy to shake someone, but he still could not make a miss in some type of way. That's a bad ratio, 0 for 5 to have when projected to the NFL because that's it only goes lower when you're one-on-one with NFL linebackers compared to linebackers that play for Baylor.
Is that it for our followers here?
That will be it.
On to Bus Watch, Whiff Watch, Breakout Watch, Wasp Watch, and First Round Lock. We need to get a watch
game
sponsor.
Strong. Yeah.
Watch game sponsor. All right, Bus
Apple
Watch. This is hurting to say because I really liked him coming out. I know you did too. Former TCU wide receiver, now plays for Philly, Jalen Reagor. Not getting the target volume in that offense, but also just not consistently create separation either. They've had to, in a lot of ways, scheme him targets just to get some of the production that they have, and still has not been all that stellar.
Yeah, he's kind of a one-trick deep guy or vertical tree guy who then struggles to his ball skills and ball tracking down the football field are suspect. That's a bad combination, and that's why he puts up a bagel this week. No catches on 3 targets. And yeah, maybe he got pass interfered with on that one by Jamel Dean, but that is not why. That's not why he puts up a complete 0 in this game. It's because he just struggles to get open consistently. The 3rd lowest yards per route of any starting wide receiver in the NFL, behind only Jalen Guyton and Demarcus Robinson.
The other thing, I remember when he tested and he had the bad change of direction stuff. And I think some people were comparing him to a miniature DK Metcalf and that he couldn't change direction. His route tree is very limited in that he is kind of stiff moving side to side, and that obviously limits your ability to create separation. Then you factor in the ball skill stuff too. Going to be difficult to not be bottom of the barrel there in the NFL. Devontae Smith easily taking over as the top receiver there. Philly with a couple of PFF favorites at receiver, not really panning out. Reagor on Bus Watch, and then also J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, the former Stanford wide receiver. Bus Watch, Hall of Fame bust, Tyron Smith. Entering that conversation, you think you're there? He's not. I think Tyron Smith is going to be a Hall of Famer.
I think he needs a few more years, but
really?
Because he spent so many of the last 3 or 4 years injured and just was not the guy we saw in the DeMarco Murray years, maybe the early Zeke Elliott years. That was just unbelievably dominant. And Tyron Smith at his absolute peak, when Tyron Smith is playing his best football, I think he's better than Joe Thomas, right up better than Trent Williams. His tape when he is at his best, he is running with guys down the football field, and that's what he's doing again this year. Right now, 92.6 overall grade, the highest we've seen from him in his career so far. And yeah, again, it's not a full season yet, but he looks like that guy yet again that just is going to, you run behind him and it's 4 yards with ease because he is taking guys off the ball consistently. He is a freak of nature. And yeah, I don't know how many more years. Tackle is a longevity position in the NFL, but at his, like I said, at his peak, I'm not sure I've seen any tackle in recent memory that could touch him. Now, I didn't watch the Walter Joneses of the world back then. You could say they're better, but Joe Thomas, Trent Williams, give me Tyron when he's on his game.
Whiff watch, a repeat name here, Jalen Reagor, 21st on PFF's draft board in 2020. He's on this list, and so is Jamel Dean, kind of the opposite side.
Highlighting that matchup, because Jamel Dean was 73rd on the PFF draft board. Now we're not the only ones that whiffed on him. But he
had such a weird frame, right? I mean, that was so much of the conversation. It's like, this guy looks like a linebacker, but then he, clocks well at the combine, and people started to get more interested in Jamel Dean. He's really, he's far exceeded that 73 mark on PFF.
I mean, at Auburn, I think he was listed at 210, but he looked like 220. That guy was enormous. And the way they schemed their defense back then, it was just it was press every snap, and it was just like you had no clue what this guy was going to look like doing anything else. And he could be that size because he pressed every snap, but then he runs a 4.31, and you're like, damn, that did not match what the tape was, but he probably lost weight to do that. So he was just a weird projection all around. And he actually went 94th, so we were actually higher on him than where he even went. But so far this year, 8 of 22 targets for 96 yards. He has been lights out, necessary for them after obviously losing Sean Murphy-Bunting and now losing Carlton Davis.
And losing Richard Sherman.
And now losing Richard Sherman, but he looks like a number one cornerback. 4 targets this past week, didn't allow a single catch, had that pick, had a pass breakup. Pretty damn good day at the office. Definitely in a redraft of that 2019 draft. He's going first round.
Next on our watch list here, Breakout Watch. We talked about him a ton on the Monday episode, but Randy Gregory, man, he looks phenomenal this year and has been fantastic with, DeMarcus Lawrence missing time. Like, he has been stepping up huge for this Dallas Cowboys defense coming off another monster game.
Yes. And we obviously highlighted him in the last episode, but back-to-back 90-plus pass rushing grades, 5th highest pass rushing grade in the country. And yeah, it was against some backup tackles after New England had some injuries, but he looks the most explosive of his career. He looks like he came out 235. He looks actually like a legit edge size now that can also play the run, which was early on in his career was not the case. So Randy Gregory playing himself into a big contract extension.
So is Max Crosby eligible for an extension. Another breakout we've talked about a ton on this show, but I was thinking about that extension could be pretty monstrous.
Well, Crosby is not a free agent, but Gregory will be a free agent after this year. He could just get money on the open market as well.
Oh, fair. Last one here. Lowest pass rush win rate of any edge defender on true pass sets this year. Jason Pierre-Paul of Tampa Bay. Good time to, good thing they picked Joe Tryon when they did. I mean, now just 8 pressures on the year, as you have listed here. He has not been what they needed. And a lot of, how much of that, he's been playing hurt though, right? I mean, he has like the.
Going to intro the segment. It's Washed Watch.
Oh, it's Washed Watch. I didn't
you just started talking about Jason Pierre-Paul.
Oh, sorry. Washed Watch. The next one here. Jason Pierre-Paul, not playing well.
Yes. 46.2 overall grade, lowest of his career. Now he's dealt with some injuries. But it wasn't even played well prior to those injuries. And of his 8 pressures, 4 of them have been either unblocked or of the cleanup variety. So really only 4 wins. 2 of those also were stunts. So really only 2 wins when he went one-on-one with offensive tackles, which is
dangerous.
On 154 pass rushing snaps. That's not great. Almost 33 years old. That's when it starts to go. That's why people don't like to sign free agents who are 31, 32, because it can go and it can go quickly. Hopefully it is just injury with Jason Pierre-Paul, and he does bounce back. But he's officially on Wash Watch. And I think we got to rename Wednesdays to Watch Wednesdays with all the Watch.
I like Watch Wednesdays. That's hot. And I think the other thing we need to mention is that Washed Watch, Breakout Watch, you're on the watch list. Okay, You're not confirmed. You're not like a lock. Yeah. This is not your like same with Reagor on the bust watch and whiff watch and stuff like that. You're on the watch list here. This is not a confirmed bust. Breakout, bust,
we're not
etc.
assholes here. We're
not assholes here. Well,
we're just realists.
Last segment of the show, first round lock. Can you read off who you have so far?
Okay.
And now, who are we adding to the 2022 NFL Draft first round lock list?
We've put 8 locks. We've put keys in 8 locks. Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley Jr., Evan Neal, Alabama tackle, Aiden Hutchinson, Kyle Hamilton, DeMarvin Leal, Tyler Linderbaum, Garrett Wilson, last week Ohio State wide receiver, and now a 9th. We're going back to the offensive line. We're going Ike Ekwonu.
Yes,
friend
really?
of the show, NC State. That's how good this guy is. And again, positional value, yeah, guard, not a great one, but you get one or two every year. And this is the best one.
Wow.
So
love that. I was not expecting Icky to make the first round lock list this early.
he's that good, man. I mean, he really is that dominant in the running game and has made those kind of strides in pass protection. We talked about it. He just looked uncomfortable after starting it last season at guard and then switching to tackle. Looks comfortable now. 4 pressures all season long. This guy is balling.
Yeah. Probably my favorite demeanor of any interview I've done. He was definitely like, I just want to beat people to shit.
Yeah,
and I think that's what you need.
How he plays too.
It's definitely how he
that
plays.
that also gets you drafted highly. Even if you can maybe say it's overrated or whatnot. Offensive line coaches in general buy into that shit. So
absolutely. That's going to do it for the Wednesday show. But before you go, actually, we got the interviews, man. Interviews with Kaiir Elam, cornerback for Florida, and then linebacker Chad Muma of Wyoming. Let's get to those. Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Wyoming linebacker Chad Muma. Chad, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
For those who don't know Chad and have not watched enough Wyoming this year, this is one of the best college football linebackers so far this season. He's been, one of the top performers in PFF grades, also a highly rated 2022 draft prospect if you choose to declare. But Chad, where I'd like to start is you haven't always played linebacker. Going back to your high school days in Colorado, you played a lot of defensive back, specifically safety. Were recruited to Wyoming as a 3-star linebacker, though. You played linebacker your senior season. What went into that transition in high school? Was that where you just knew you were going to play at the next level?
Yeah, no, when I was kind of going through all the recruiting process, a lot of schools actually were recruiting me for linebacker. And so for my sophomore and my junior season, I was playing a lot of safety and doing all that just because my body weight wasn't super high. And I was kind of light in high school, but knowing that colleges were recruiting me for linebacker, that's kind of when I made the switch in high school for my senior year. Then I was able to play linebacker that year, then kind of transitioned smoothly into college.
And we were talking a little bit before we started recording. You got to Wyoming at what, 6'2", 6'3", 195, and have bulked up to around 240 pounds now. What all went into that experience? What was the calorie breakdown? How much were you in the weight room? I'm sure that was not a traumatic experience, but definitely an aggressive one.
Oh, no, it's definitely aggressive. And it's almost like a job when you have to put on that much weight because you just have to constantly eat. And that's kind of what I talked about with my trainers and my nutritionalists is they would make some weight gain shakes. And I think they were like 1,800 calories.
Oh, my God.
You would drink 2 of those every single – I think the 2 of them would combine up to 1,800 calories. But we drink 2 of those every single day. And then obviously be in the weight room and obviously just always eating food throughout the day. And that was kind of what went into all of that.
I don't think enough is said about just like the job, college football athletic trainers have when you get guys like yourself who obviously have room on their frame to add weight and they end up doing so. I think you see like Ben Barch from a few years ago add a ton of weight with shakes. I remember talking to guys who said they'd have to wake up at 3 a.m., eat chicken and vegetables, go back to sleep, then wake up and do these different things. That's wild that you've gone through that. Now at the playing weight you are, do you expect to add more weight? Are you still kind of bulking or are you settling in here and kind of finding your groove?
In the season, it's kind of hard just to gain weight just because you're always constantly going, always practicing. But for myself, I'd like to gain more weight. It's still like a process today. I'm still drinking those weight gain shakes just to maintain because, practices can be really vigorous and stuff. But would like to gain a little bit more weight as the season continues and as the season ends and whatnot.
Focusing now on the football field, don't got to talk about weight gain anymore. You've kind of had this breakout really in 2019, appeared in all 13 games, made 2 starts, and had a lot of success in the limited opportunities you had. And then going into 2020, obviously had the COVID-impacted, COVID-abbreviated season. Now entering 2021, off to significant success. What would you say, over the course of your career at Wyoming, has been the biggest area of improvement for you or the biggest area of development? I
think just my knowledge on the game. I think when I was a younger back in 2019, I obviously had those 2 NFL stars playing ahead of me, like Logan Wilson, and just learned a lot through those guys. I mean, they would teach me every single day of things that I can improve my game on and just the aspects of learning the game. And so I think that from last year compared to this year, I've been a lot more time studying film and being in the film room specifically just to know and understand like it's 3rd and 5. This is what the offense is looking to do in this situation, or if this formation comes up, this is what could possibly happen. So I think that's the biggest thing where I've improved the most on.
And I know so much of that is opportunity and reps, and you've had your fair share in your career at Wyoming, but a lot of that is also learning how to watch film, what to look for on film. What are your kind of film habits right now in a given week or even in the off season that have really, propelled you forward from a football IQ standpoint?
Yeah, so every week around dinner time, what I'll actually do is we have these little to-go boxes. So I'll get my dinner to go, and then I'll just go eat my dinner while I'm watching film basically every single night during the game week, just so I can learn about the defense or the offense a little bit more and just understand what tendencies they like to have. And then we also watch a lot of film in our meetings and whatnot.
Do you ever have opportunities to watch film on yourself, or is that more of like an off-season thing? I know a lot of guys like to. I was talking to Kaiir Elam, the Florida cornerback, recently. He said, he turns on the tape on himself probably after every single week, trying to critique his game and improve every week as well.
Yeah, every single week I'm looking at my film, and I think every single week I can learn from what I did, good and bad. And I think there's a lot of improvement that I could have in this season specifically. And I think it's just always a learning curve that you need to go into it watching film and just be harsh on yourself, really, and just understand that, hey, you need to do this better, or hey, this was good, let's do this again next week.
And before we talk more about this season and kind of your outlook and your goals for the rest of this year, have you ever have you ever had opportunities to watch film on NFL guys? I know you brought up Logan Wilson, a former Wyoming standout, now also balling out for our hometown Cincinnati Bengals. PFF's actually based here in Cincinnati. Do you ever have opportunity to watch NFL guys and kind of take some tips and pieces from their game?
Yeah, I think watching film, I mean, you could say you're watching film, but watching games every Sunday or Monday night or Thursday night, I like to watch the linebackers and see how they're playing and really kind of watch their game and see what I can do better in my game, just to kind of correlate to the NFL standard that they're playing at. And so I think Logan's a great example. I think he's been balling out this whole year, and it seems like every week he's getting a turnover, making a huge stop or a huge play. And so I think that's been awesome. But definitely in the past, I've gone on YouTube sometimes and watched little highlights of some linebackers. And so that's been part of my game as well, I guess you could say.
Logan Wilson, always around the ball this year. I've had, conversations with, linebackers over the past 2 or 3 years about how much really the position has changed going from college to the NFL. At college level, it hasn't changed as much, but I would argue even at both levels, it's not as important to be 255, 260 and be this run-stopping two-down player, because so many teams are obviously throwing the ball a lot more and trying to push the ball downfield, to where you need your linebackers more athletic, faster. That's why Devin Bush, Micah Parsons, these guys are running low 4.4s, and that's what you want in the football field. What has been your opinion of how much the position has changed, I guess, over the recent years?
Yeah, I think that's the same exact thing. I think the speed has really changed for the linebacker position. It seems like every single year, when you're watching the combine, just the linebacker speeds are going down so much, and they're just becoming so much faster. And so I think that's been a huge part, is just getting a linebacker that's able to drop back in coverage and go make those plays.
I mean, you even see with Clemson, you're running 3 high safeties. They're they're trying to get lighter and lighter on the field and faster. I don't know if that's going to change. I think eventually you could see maybe it revert back a bit and take advantage of those light guys on the football field. But it has been such a rapidly changing position. A lot of that because too, you got tight ends are getting lighter, running backs are getting out of the backfield. You have to cover, the Travis Kelce's of the world, which is never easy to do. Focusing more on this season, what's your outlook for the rest of this year? Obviously, I talked to a lot of players who, their goals are win every single week. And I think that's obviously your goal as well. But if you had to look at the rest of this year and say, this is what I need to accomplish this year, what would be first on your list?
Yeah, I think for me, myself, is just to, continue to go out and just force turnovers and kind of make those big game-changing plays out there. And I think that's kind of the biggest part that I missed out on last year. I think, I had a forced fumble and maybe a fumble recovery last year and didn't really have that many opportunities to, change the game by getting those turnovers. And so that's kind of been something I've been looking at this year, is just to get more of those turnovers and, just kind of have fun with it and go out there and just play every game.
Looking ahead to this week at New Mexico, coming to Laramie, Wyoming, what are some of the things you're seeing on tape? What are you excited for in this one?
No, I'm excited. I mean, last year they were having a difficult season, and you could say so ourselves, but we went out there and it was a game that we were projected to win and we ended up losing. And so kind of going through this week, we just got to be really prepared as a team going into it and start fast. I think that was an issue we had last year, is we just kind of started slow and they just were able to hang with us the whole game and then beat us at the end. But they got a decent offense with some good athletes out there. And so I'm just really looking forward to the challenge that they pose and just, being able to go up against them and just really dominate. And I think that our goal for this week is just to create more turnovers as a defense.
Fantastic stuff, Chad. Really appreciate you joining the show. We'll have to get you back on in the offseason. Best of luck the rest of this year, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Florida cornerback Kaiir Elam. Kaiir, we have been looking forward to getting you on the show probably since last year. You have been one of the more successful cornerbacks in the SEC, if not all of college football, over the past few years, continuing that dominance this year. Only 83 yards allowed on the season. Really appreciate you jumping on the show.
Yes, sir. You appreciate it.
Where I'd like to start, man, is honestly, let's turn back a little bit to when you first got to Florida there in 2019, appeared in all 13 games, made 5 starts that season. But you were coming off of a fantastic high school career. In your preps career, played both sides of the ball, 97 catches for 1,490 yards at varsity, and also played a ton of defensive back. Getting to Florida, was there any ever thought of potentially playing the other side of the ball, maybe getting on the receiving end? I know you got the size to do it.
So growing up, I always had length and ball skills. I couldn't really explain how. I just always had it, and I worked so hard to become more athletic and more skilled at the corner position. But there was no doubt in my mind I was going to play corner and corner only though, and return some kicks. Honestly, that's what I really wanted to do.
And I mean, you've always had it. I mean, it's in your blood. I mean, your uncle, I know, is former first-round pick, Matt Elam. You also have a lot of other, historically great football players in your family. Played a ton of different sports in high school, basketball, track, obviously both sides of the ball in football. Have always been that level of athlete. What have you done to add to that, though? Because like you said, you worked so hard to get to the level that you are now. It's not enough to have this God-given talent, this what's in your blood, playing football and playing at the level you do. Talk to me about, the preparation that has gone into this season, even your career in college, and how much you've added to that already high floor athletic ability.
Well, really, I just do more than what's asked of myself, honestly. Get up in the morning, stretch, do extra running. On my off season, I do a lot of speed work and a lot of corner position work with my dad, Elam. But honestly, just perfecting my craft each and every day. And then I'm more, since high school, I've been watching a lot of film. Like anybody know me, I keep my iPad on me. So I'm like a film junkie. So I guess that's how I really separate myself.
When you're turning on the film, are you doing a lot of film study on yourself? I know a lot of guys like to watch themselves and critique themselves. Or are you always looking at that next opponent? Or are you always looking at that next receiver on your list?
A little bit of both. So after every game, I'll probably go watch the next receiver I'm going to play for the week. And then I'll critique myself first, and then I go look at the next opponent. But anybody knows I keep my iPad with me 24/7.
Critiquing yourself, what have you noticed, so far this year, or even in previous years, have been the biggest area of improvement? Like, where have you felt you've improved the most going back and watching the film and then implementing that?
From last year, just my knowledge of the game just slowing down for me. I can understand formations and splits, and can tell what the offense is going to try to attack me now. If it's single high, if it's too high, I can tell, I can know what to expect almost. Honestly, I just go out there and try to just do my job, and then if the plays come, hey, I'm ready to make it. If not, at least I'm doing my job. And hopefully that my goal every time I go out there, just consistently dominate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you talk to a lot of, young defensive backs in the NFL, guys that are starting to have success. Trayvon Diggs, one of them, they talk about football IQ and how much the game slows down for them. That's when you're recognizing splits and you got 7 interceptions on the season like Diggs does. I think that's fantastic to hear. You're already experiencing some of that at the collegiate level. You've had a lot of opportunities, even as a young player, to play a ton of snaps in the SEC, over 1,200 snaps played in your career. You've seen a lot of talented wide receivers. Who are some of the guys on your list that you've watched on the iPad after the game and said, man, this kid's got talent? Who are some of those guys that you've had some of the best battles with in your collegiate career?
Best battles? I'm not sure, honestly. I remember my freshman year when Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they had a spectacular year, and we went to LSU to play. I didn't really get to guard them because they had C.J. Henderson following Jamar, and then I would play the other corner on the outside, and then Justin Jefferson was in the slot. So, but I mean, I thought Jamar Chase was very, very talented, very skilled. But me personally, I feel like I don't really have a top receiver I think I played against. But I'm more sure. I'm more like I feel like no one can really affect me besides myself, really, honestly.
And in those battles, I want to talk a little bit about Florida's secondary and how much talent they've produced. But in those battles, are you a chippy guy? Do you like to talk shit a little bit, or are you more on the side of let the game speak? Because I mean, the cornerback position, it's one of the biggest things. Are you a talker? Are you not? A lot of people like to leverage that to get into people's head. Where are you at on that front?
Nah, my feet step across that field, like I know, like no, I feel like nobody's better than me. But I don't let people know that. Like I wouldn't come out and say like talk trash or whatever. But like if you talk to me, I'll be locked into my game. But if you talk to me, then it's on. Then I don't know. I become a different person when I'm out there on that field. I don't know what I might say to somebody.
I'd say the best players do, man. I think the best players do become that different person on the field, and that's evident in how well you've played for Florida this year and in previous years. Going back to some of the names you mentioned, CJ Henderson, you also had Marco Wilson there, who's having some success with Arizona in the NFL right now. How much of the success is derived from just the culture at Florida, specifically in the secondary? It's one of those schools that consistently produces talent in the secondary in that scheme. How much has that helped you really improve just that competition you've played against or played with every single week?
Yeah, so last year, I think last year in my freshman year, I played against every day in practice. I played against Kyle Pitts, Van Jefferson, Freddie Swain, who's in the NFL. Van was a second-round pick against the Rams. Kadarius Toney, who was a first-round pick receiver. So, and a lot of other guys like Jacob Copeland on my team, and so like a lot of guys with a lot of talent. I feel like they really helped me, like I guess, compete every day, single day. So when I got to the game, it was so much easier. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm a dominant person. I like to win every single rep, but like being realistic, I can't win every single time, 100% of the time, even though I try my best. But just having those guys, the practice against every day, which really like helped me get a lot better.
I had CJ Henderson on this podcast a few years ago, and then also Marco Wilson. Marco Wilson talks about trying to guard Kyle Pitts in practice. It's not easy. It's almost impossible with that guy. He's one of the special talents in the NFL right now. Going back to your game specifically this season, I know we talked a little bit about how much you've improved. This year has been just such a wild start for you. Only 83 yards allowed on the season. Like I said, you've only been targeted 13 times. 235 snaps played, specifically 126 in coverage, only 13 targets. You find yourself getting bored out there? I feel like no one's targeting you this season.
I mean, Alabama did.
Yeah, true. Alabama had 7 on you.
Yeah, but shoot. I mean, do I get frustrated? Nah, because I feel like teams they respect me, but I feel like I'll be always in the back of my mind. I'll be always aware, like they like any moment, like every play, I feel like the ball is coming my way. So like I'd be alert, but I'm looking forward to when teams do start targeting me though, for sure, because I feel like I can get my hands on a lot of balls and make a lot of plays, but I can't force it. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like at corner you can't do that. You just have to do your job, and if the plays come, you got to make them.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to watching film, I know you spend a lot of time watching the college game. Do you ever have opportunities, maybe even in the off season, to turn on the tape for some NFL guys? Do you have some specific cornerbacks? I know the Jalen Ramseys of the world always come up with this question, but are there guys in the NFL that you have opportunities to watch that you try and take pieces of their game of?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, I'm a big film guy. So whatever somebody doing that helps them, I'll watch it and see if I need to implement it in my game. So I'd probably say Xavier Howard. I just love the way he plays the ball in the deep part of the field. I like how Ramsey plays with a lot of physicality, a lot of swagger. And then technique-wise, it'll sound shocking, but I used to watch the guy across from Ramsey. I used to watch Darius Williams because he's a smaller kind of guy, but he played with a lot of great technique. So that's kind of what I kind of pride myself on, is playing with great technique at the line of scrimmage. And also, being a ball hawk, and then with my length and physicality, I like to come up and tackle as well. So,
yeah, one of the better tackling cornerbacks in college football. And I'm glad you brought up Darius Williams. He's another guy that, even dating back to his days in college, has always graded really well for PFF because of that technique he plays with. He outperforms his size, outperforms his athleticism, largely because he is that film junkie you speak to as well. Going back to that Bama game, there's that transfer from Ohio State. You had an opportunity to go against him a couple reps. Jameson Williams. Your thoughts on his game, his speed, what he brings to the table?
I think he's electric. I feel like he might actually be probably the best receiver I guard in college football, honestly. Did he catch a ball on me? I
think he got one. That's what we charged you with, but I have to go back and watch the tapes to confirm.
Oh, okay. That might have been in his zone, but I feel like, I definitely think he's probably the top point I've ever played against. I feel like he's a good receiver, honestly. Just not even just his speed. Like you could tell he definitely is super competitive and has a good knowledge for the game. Yeah, I think he's pretty good. I think he's electric.
Looking forward to, the rest of the season. Honestly, this game coming up, you have an opportunity to go against a really talented football team against Georgia. They've been, the talk of college football this year. It's hard to ignore it. You can say you turn off Twitter, you don't go online. This is a team that obviously is number one in the country with a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. What are you most looking forward to going into this matchup?
Against Georgia? Sure. Yeah. Just compete my behind off and, my ultimate goal every single game is to win the game, first of all. Yeah. And secondly, is just to go out there and do my job to the best of my abilities and make the plays that come my way, and just to be physical and just be physical and play with great technique. But just number one, win. Number two, like I said, just go out there and do my job and put on the show, honestly.
Absolutely. We can finish here, Kaiir. Really appreciate the time. I know you brought up that goal with Georgia, and I think your goal every single week, rightfully so, is to win the game. What do you have any personal goals set for yourself to close out this season? Are you got anything on your chalkboard or your notes app at home where you're saying this is what I need to get done this year? Or is it as simple as win every week?
Just consistently dominate, honestly. Just like I said, I don't like when a person throws a pass at me, let alone let a person catch a ball. But at corner, sometimes if you're in a zone or something, you might have to give some up. So, but honestly, I like to consistently dominate. So that's my goal for the rest of the year. Just when you cut on the tape, you see Kaiir out there and dominating whoever you're going against.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate the time, and I wish you the best of luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. You as well.
Boom. Put a pin in it. Wednesday, watch Wednesdays out of the mix here. Went over the top 10 position rankings as well. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure to do that. Help support the show. Also use promo code TAILGATE at PFF.com to get any subscription for 25% off. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, Producer Stone, Producer Quinn, Producer Max Chadwick, David Sofaro, TAILGATE.